was asked to deliver this keynote speech, what I wanted to talk about. What is it? What is this gift that you have, that we have, that the world needs? And there are many components of it. Fellowship, harmony, overtones, brotherhood. But one word really rose above all, and that is the word listening. There's something about listening that is absolutely central to who we are as humans, as communicators. And it's so central that, frankly, companies pay people to come in and teach their teams, teach their leaders, teach their workers how to listen. Many people who are married, including myself, have gone to specialists to learn how to be better spouses, how to have a better marriage, because you need to learn how to truly listen. Yeah, there's no shame in that. The fact that, no, seriously, like, been married over 20 years happily, but it doesn't just happen, people. Y'all probably know. This is for the YouTube crowd. You 17-year-olds out there, good luck. Right? But listening is about stepping outside yourself. It's about stepping outside your ego, your needs, your wants, your own desires, and finding out what's going on outside of you, right? Boy, do we need that now. Yeah, and I don't mean, I mean in a societal sense, right? How many people do you know say that, well, I just, I feel empty, or I feel disconnected. You go home at the end of the, what do? Well, I go home at the end of every day and I plop down in front of the computer, I plop down on a couch, and they don't have that connection that we have, right? And then they don't build these interpersonal skills that are so central to the rest of our lives. What we do, how we listen, and really listen, and learn to listen through vocal harmony, is a skill that we use throughout every day of our lives, in every single circumstance. One funny story from my wife's family, and I'll put them on the spot a little bit. I won't name names, but I recall one piece of family lore is that my father-in-law gave a gift to his wife of a bread maker. And ladies, how many of you would be really excited for your birthday to get a bread maker from your husband when you had not asked for one? Yeah, exactly. No hands. Let the record show no hands went up in the house. I think we're talking about the importance of listening and knowing what another person wants, what they need, what they desire. And I want to turn that around to us as a society, as a brotherhood, as a force for good in the world that wants to make sure that everybody understands what we have to give and to help them lead better lives. Sometimes when I'm with you guys, I get the sense that what you're offering people, it's not a bread maker, but you're like, hey world, here's a box of overtones. And people are like, I didn't ask for overtones. I don't know what overtones are. I'll take the bread maker, right? Like they just don't know. They don't know. We are putting at the forefront, intentional quote, wherever you guys are. I throw that word in as much as I can, hoping you guys get paid. It's like three-peat, I'm sure you've trademarked it. I want to make sure that this idea of the way in which we're relating to the rest of the world is being done in the right way. We listen to each other, we listen to harmony, we listen to our spouses and our friends, but are we listening to the world the best way that we can to make sure that we can share our music in the best way possible? Let's backpedal a little bit and let's think about music. When you had a long, exhausting day, you're beat down, you feel like the world is against you, whatever. When you go home, you're like, I just want to put on some music. Do you put on music, you're like, you know what I need to listen to today? I need to listen to the most in-tune piece of music I own. Actually, I'm probably asking that of the wrong group of people. It just occurred to me that this particular question was posed incorrectly. Let me flip that around. Is there any other human on the planet who would go home and say, such a bad... No. People listen to music and they relate to music because of how it makes them feel, right? Right. Let me give you come at this from a different perspective. Motown. Everybody here loves Motown, right? You love Motown. Motown is out of tune. It's out of tune, particularly by today's standards, right? Today's standards, everything is like all tuned up and polished and they sound like robots, which is a whole different problem, but those classic harmonies, right? When you hear the Supremes, right? You hear the Four Tops, you hear Marvin Gaye, like, it lives in the cracks. There's some notes where they never get all the way up there, but it doesn't really matter. Because in the same way that you don't read a novel based upon how good the grammar is, it's nice when the grammar's good. You don't listen to a speech and get moved by the speech based upon how well the words are pronounced. So you don't probably actually fundamentally experience music through the overtones, as much as your ears have been attuned to them in a way that, frankly, most people's haven't, right? So what is it, then, that people love about music? What is it that draws them in? Well, first of all, it needs to be emotionally driven. We are, as logical as we like to think we are, guys, right? We are emotional creatures. And music is an international language. It's a language that speaks to our souls in a very animalistic way. Birds and whales and crickets all communicate without words per se, and yet they know what they're saying. And this part of our brain, our medulla oblongata, this little animal part that's fear and flight, it gives us a sense of no, there's safety, things are okay. Music can tap into this back here, and parts of our brain that we can't necessarily always reach just with words. And that's why someone can talk to you all day. Oh no, you're fine. Oh no, things are great. Oh no, that's okay. But then you put on a piece of music, little Beethoven 6, and you're like, maybe it is okay, right? That's what music can do. Music has an emotional power. Music also has a personality to it, right? You go to different musicians not just because the music they make is a particular way, but because it reflects who they are. We love the variety, the different people in this room, in this world, in our culture, around the world, and we seek out different music because each song, each group, each band, each quartet has their own personality. And that personality is compelling. When we hear music that comes from their souls, that is a true reflection of who they are, it enriches our lives, and it makes us feel more connected to who they are, right? And then there's soul. You can think of that in a spiritual sense, you can think of that in an R&B music kind of sense, but there's a soul to music, right? Again, it's not overtones, it's deeper, it's powerful, it gets down to the root of who we are and why we're here, and what we're trying to do to make this world a better place. And then finally, there's something about music that really works if it speaks to our lives, if it speaks to everyday situations, if there's a truth in it that's universal, which is why there are so many love songs, which is why there are songs about work, there are songs about relationships, there are songs about parents, there are songs about food, glorious food. I mean, there are songs about different things, and when we hear those songs, they trigger our own memories, they trigger our own experiences. None of these things have anything to do with overtones, right? And that's why I think it's important for us to remember that when we're looking at how and why we're reaching out to people with our music to make them fall in love with it. Ultimately, they'll fall in love with the overtones, we know that part. Also note that I didn't mention because it has a beat or it has a lot of vocal melismas, that's technique. And just like I was talking about grammar and pronunciation, those kind of techniques aren't the reason that people listen to music any more than we listen to our music because of overtones. And a good example for this is the fact that there have been so many young soloists who have been launched through network television with millions and millions and millions and millions of viewers, through American Idol and through The Voice, and almost none of them have become successful, even though they've had more eyeballs on them than musicians in the past ever were able to get before they launched their career. And that's because I think ultimately they were putting flash ahead of substance. They were focusing on the craft. Look at how quickly I can do these vocal runs. Look at how much I can approximate what a technically proficient singer is able to do, rather than, hey, let me just sing from the heart. And sometimes singing from the heart is simple, right? To that extent, sometimes what people want to hear isn't necessarily circliferous overtones, they just want to hear some triads. Simple, but honest, if it's sung with honesty. Another analogy that might help is to think about it like, okay, sure, your car drives fast, but will it take me where I want to go? You can show off all the technical proficiency in the world in vocal harmony, and how high you can sing, and how low you can sing, and how fast you can sing, and how many chords you're ringing, and all of this stuff. But in the end, if it doesn't take somebody to an emotional place, if it doesn't speak to their life, if it doesn't touch their soul, it's not going to do anything for them, right? These are things you know. These are things I think we all know, but maybe it's good for us to tag down on them and think about them again at a time when we are now able to reach more people than ever before. Barbershop can be and is all of these things that I just mentioned. But when you think about it, none of those things I've mentioned are judging categories. Wait for it. Wait for it. This isn't going where you think it's going to go. So, it brings me to the elephant in the room, which is judging, okay? This society has flourished over decades. It has created a desire and an excitement to create excellence within amateur music because of the competitions, because of the judging. I know this when I started what's now the International Championship of College Acapella. The competition that's in the movie Pitch Perfect, it really exists. I started it right out of college because I looked at college a cappella singers singing in an auditorium and I was like, people don't really care. Well, where's the analogy I can draw from? And I went to the gym at Tufts University and I saw some basketball players playing and no one was in there, and I realized if you just have some basketball players playing, nobody cares. But if you create the NCAA tournament and March Madness, everyone cares. So I need to create a March Madness of acapella, which is why I created the NCAA, which is now international, so it's ICA. There is a crazy excitement about college acapella, largely because of this competition, and the movie Pitch Perfect is based on it and all that kind of stuff, so it worked. But the thing I tell everybody when I go behind the stage is, guys, don't drink the Kool-Aid. This isn't about competing. Make friends with these other people. It doesn't matter who wins up there. We're performing for a giant crowd. They're like, God, but we gotta get the trophy. No, you won. You made it to the finals. You know, it's like the groups on the sing-off. I told them all, like, you're in the finals. Who cares who wins? Let's make some great music and change the world. But it was so hard to get them away from this idea. They got themselves so geared up towards this ideal of, well, we're great if we get that trophy. We're better if we get that trophy, right? Do you guys know who won Artist of the Year for the Grammys in 1967? Nobody does. Except the person who came in second place. Right? Okay? So let it go. The original barbershoppers sang for each other and the public, which is why barbershop was the contemporary acapella of its day. It's why it became a national phenomenon. It's why we love it so much, and we look back on it, we're like, God, everybody sang barbershop then. That's so awesome. It's amazing. It was the pop of the music, right? Right. But there wasn't any judging. Now, we can't necessarily go back there, so what do we do? Because art based on judging becomes like vocal synchronized swimming. Right? Right? Did that one sting a little? That one just got in there a little. Sorry, internet. And basically, you're doing the musical equivalent of teaching to the test. Well, if I get 5 points for movement, I need to make sure my this, and if we do a thing with our feet, that's probably a half a point. So we've got to come up with something in the second half of the song. You know you're doing it. You know you're doing it, right? So how do we get away from this? Well, the first step, and this is where you didn't think this was going, don't blame the system. Don't blame the judges. How many of you guys are judges for in any capacity here? Raise your hands. Now, keep your hands in the air if you would like the people who get up on that contest stage to spend 100% of their time focusing on the competition. Right? Let the record show, nobody kept their hand in the air. The judges don't want that for you either, right? We need this carrot to motivate people to focus on excellence. And yet if it becomes an all-consuming task, and you're making your choices based upon that contest stage, and the few people that are sitting in front of you, and the metric, it doesn't matter what the metric is, you're still teaching to the test. And the bottom line is the test is going to be rarefied. It's not going to be necessarily in the public's interest. And like I talked about before, there's no category for soul. There's no category for heart. There's no category for universal themes. There's no category for and I know the performance category vastly improved. All kinds of cool things are coming through there. But again, if you're thinking about, well, just I can have no more than a third of our performance be soul because that's how much is, you know what I'm saying? Like if you get to let it go. That's all I'm saying. So the experiences and the choices you bring to your performance on the concert stage would help move Barbershop forward and take some of the weight off of a committee who can't possibly legislate all aspects of creativity, full stop, right? Right? Judges, right? Right, board of directors? Okay? They've gone a long way, and now they've done their job. And now it's your job to spend maybe 25% of your time thinking about that contest stage and 75% of your time thinking about changing the world. Because that's what we can do. That's the power we have. The reason I do this, and I said this before when I was so honored to get the lifetime membership, my life's work is to spread harmony through harmony. My life's work is to share this gift that I feel like I got from a young age, this lightning in a bottle, this incredible experience that we all have. That's why I'm here. That's why I do this, and that's why I go to middle schools, and that's why I make silly movies with actresses about a cappella, and that's why I spend time on all different aspects of it. Some of them are flashy, some aren't. Some of them are fun, some aren't. But the bottom line is every new person that we reach, we have the potential to change a life. And I'm literally preaching to the choir here, but I want to spend a little time on that. Your lives were changed because you have harmony in it. You are here, you have friends you wouldn't have, you feel connected to society. Do you know how much longer people live when they feel that? Right? Do you know how much better kids do in school when they have vocal music in their programs, in their lives? A lot better. And then 20-somethings, so well, I sang in school, but I don't have it anymore, and they go home and they plop down on the couch like everybody else, and they interact with a glowing box, be it the television or the internet, and they start to distance themselves, right? And then that's where you get all this vitriol and tweets. That's where you get all this sense of bifurcation and distancing within our society, right? I have many of you out there as friends, and maybe we don't spend a lot of time talking, but there is a vast range in political beliefs and experiences and understandings between the different people that I have on my Facebook page. And I don't unfriend people. I want to know what you're thinking. And the beautiful thing is when we sit down and we start having those conversations, we find the common ground. That gets back to what I was talking about originally, listening, right? This skill of listening that's honed through music, that's honed through realizing that maybe occasionally you'll be out front and you'll be the important person, but most of the time you won't be. Most of the time you need to stand back here and you need to be a good foot soldier. You need to learn about what's going on all around you. You need to modify your vowel to fit the vowels of everybody else next to you. You need to learn how to listen to the director, right? You need to learn how to sing a song well that maybe you don't love because other people love it. I mean, all of these are really powerful skills. Where else are people getting these skills in our culture? And more importantly, especially for kids, but for all of you guys who are in the competition circuit as well and really take it seriously, when you make music well, unlike football and basketball and baseball and the Olympics and whatever, if you do it well, you always win. You always win every single time. Who cares about the trophy? Who cares about the gold around your neck? Who cares about the extra pin? You made something beautiful and you brought that into the world, right? Football team loses in the Super Bowl is going to feel like losers. In fact, they've even done studies in the Olympics. The least satisfied people are the ones who come in second place. Did you know that? Yeah. And one of the things I love about Marty is his understanding, his perspective around all this. The first time I came to Nashville, he had me to his office, and he has a sign above his desk. Clinton's like, if the economy's stupid, his sign says, competitions are mostly for losers. It's one of the best signs I've ever seen in my life. Because it works at so many different levels, right? I mean, first of all, you're like, ha, most of y'all are losers. But then also it makes you realize, like, well, the nature of the way in which you structure the competition needs to be something that is of value to all of these people who are going to lose. It's what it is, right? Right?
Right.
So if you go into that competition, you should know you're probably going to lose. So why don't you make the most of it, make friends, learn, and more importantly, don't make all of what you're doing about that winning. And then the heat is off. Okay, so if everything you do is changing lives and people want it, they just don't know that they want it. This wonderful harmony, this connection, this community, this harmony. How do we lead with the elements that will draw people into what we're doing? How do we not change what we're doing? Because this is a preservation society. I don't want you to change the chords you're singing. I don't want you to have to change the repertoire. This isn't about that any more than I was talking about the grammar or the melismas. This is about finding the right way to do what we do well and get it in front of people in a way that's compelling, right? So how do we do that? Number one, let's present our music in a way that gets to the heart of why people love music, like I was talking before, and not why we barbershoppers love barbershop. I know it sounds almost trite when I say it that way, but there are a number of times when I hear you guys talking about, well, the reason barbershop is great is da-da-da-da-da, music theory or jargon or insider's terms, and that's not going to draw anybody in. Particularly people who come to a rehearsal for the first time, they're like, well, I don't know if this is for me, and they all of a sudden get lost. It almost feels a little culty, honestly. And you're all like, yes, it does. It feels culty. They'll get there, right? But initially, we want the big, broad, open arms approach and to draw them in and communicate with them in a way that makes fundamental sense to them, right? Melodies, harmonies, chords, people connecting together, beautiful music, songs that mean something, right? We're singing the song because it has a lot of chords in it and we think we'll score higher. Yeah, you know you're picking songs for that reason. You're telling your arrangers, just put more chords in. It's like the opposite of the movie Amadeus, like too many notes. Like too few notes. We need more notes in this arrangement. Sometimes it wants to be simple, right? Right? And if any of you guys, you're like, well, how do we do this? Take one of those Barber Pole Cat songs and make the audience cry. You can do it. Yeah. Sing Amazing Grace, right? And make the audience hair stand up. That's what music should do. It's what music can do. It's what music does do in most other realms. In fact, it's what most musicians are trying to do every time they post a video on YouTube and they get in front of an elementary school crowd or whatever. They're trying to electrify and energize that audience in a way that they understand, right? And there will be some meaning in the middle. It's not like, again, it's not about compromising who you are. It's about realizing and putting in the forefront the elements of music that draw people in the first place. All right, number 2, don't speak about barbershop in language that people don't understand. Harmonics, Chinese 7th chords, really people, Chinese 7th chords. Can we do away with that one? As a lifelong San Franciscan, it's just too easy for people to misunderstand that, like, and to have it come across the wrong way, when obviously it has to do with intervals and harmonies, and but you know, find analogies that people can relate to. Okay, so recently I've been using an analogy that I think is really effective when I'm trying to explain the experience of hearing people sing in incredibly tight harmonies moving up and down, and it's the Blue Angels, right? The Blue Angels fly in perfect formation, unbelievably close to each other, and they perform these acrobatics that are just, they're overwhelmingly technically amazing. That's what we are. This is vocal Blue Angels, right? Those kind of analogies, look for those kind of things, because then people can be like, oh, I want to be the Blue Angels, I'm a good singer, I could do that, right? It appeals to people's ego a little bit too. So pull people in with words and images that make sense to them and that involve other aspects of the world. Number 3, be you. Be you. People can tell when you're faking. If you are a 78-year-old retired individual living in Minnesota, then be a 78-year-old retired individual living in Minnesota. There are things about your life and your experience that are fun and funny and inspire pathos and truth. There's background from your childhood, from your life, from your culture, from your immediate surroundings. There's so much that you have to say and share with the world. Don't try to be Lady Gaga. Don't feel like you need to be younger than you are. Don't feel like you need to be cooler than you are or more urban than you are. Be you. Because people can sniff that out right away, right? You know you can. As soon as you're watching videos, you're like, that's fake. These people are posers. That's not true, right? We have really good radar for those kind of things. So I want to make sure you guys know that this isn't about making you be someone that you aren't. This isn't about like trying to attach yourself to the latest, hottest thing. This is about going deep into who you are and digging deep emotionally to make sure that these performances are honest. Which is what my latest book is all about. Book signing at 3 o'clock downstairs. Pitching. That one's for me, Drew. Okay. Next up, people so often ask me, how do we make videos that really will grab people, that will really capture their attention? Because that's part of the hard thing, right? I'm like, okay, if it's the latest pop song on the radio, it's going to automatically get some hits because people are excited about this music right now, but how do we do it with our stuff? And more importantly, how come some people in the barbershop world are getting this and we're not? And I think the answer is very simple. Create genuine moments. I can't tell you how many barbershoppers have come up to me and said like, so those guys on the Southwest flight, they got millions of views, but they're not even that good. What's the deal? Our quartet's like a B+, and they're like a B-, and I'm like, whoa, pump the brakes, cowboy. What you have in that particular situation is a real moment. They were actually on the flight. People actually grabbed their phones, and they actually were charmed by hearing some people that they didn't expect all of a sudden break into harmony in the middle of nowhere. People are longing for these kind of real experiences. Was it a perfect tune? No. Do people care? No. They don't care. They cared about something that was really happening in the moment. It was a genuine experience, and it was low-grade video. And Vintage Mix, my favorite quadruplets in the world, I shot a little video. They're amazing, aren't they? I shot a little video of them at Camp Acapella. I wanted to capture them singing to the headliner group that we had their voice player came from the sing-off. I just wanted to capture this little moment of what it's like when they're singing a song for voice play. It's got like 5 million views, right? And the quality isn't that great. It's a handheld camera, kind of shaky, whatever. But it was a real moment. It was this transference of excitement because they were excited about singing for voice play. And the voice player's like, these kids, what's the deal? And the audience saw that and continues to watch it through the eyes of voice play. They're watching in the same way that people watched the sing-off and experienced it through the eyes of the judges. Does that make sense? In a lot of ways, people need context. They need to feel comfortable, like, do I like this? Do I not like this? People don't always know if they like something, and having it some way to anchor their own experience of it through other people's eyes can really help. Also, that Shaggy video, the British quartet that did the Shaggy song, they went the high-end route. So it appears to me there are two different ways to go with video. One is really bare bones, hold up your cell phone, create and capture an honest moment. Nobody expects any high production values, right? Or spend some money and make a real video that makes people think like, wow, you care. Like that matters. Latest GQ video came out yesterday. They spent a little bit of money. It's really not, I mean the song's great, I love them, but they took the time. They spent 2 days shooting this video and cutting it all together. They had a storyline, personality, a couple cameos, and but it's fun to watch, and you see that and you're like, well, I want to watch that again. There's more going on in there, right? It's a different way of approaching it. Unfortunately, most of the barbershop videos that I see live in the region between the two. They're a little more polished, like than just grabbing a camera, but they're not full production value, and so they live in that valley of, right? Did they not care enough, or is this not worthwhile, not worth my time because they haven't spent money? You know what I mean? It's that that's going on. The analogy I use in the contemporary acapella world is a yearbook album. College acapella groups are now spending time making really nice albums. But 20 years ago, when I started the Contemporary Acapella Society of America, most groups would like set up a stereo pair of mics and just sing through their repertoire, and then put out an album like, here's 18 songs from the Yale Whiffen Blues this year. Next year, boom, boom, boom. Groups all over the country were making albums this way, and I would call them a yearbook album because it's really kind of just a It's for them to remember what their year was like. It's not invalid, but it's not necessarily something that the whole world is going to love, just grandma. So we need to make sure we're making videos that aren't just for grandma. Learn from other successful artists that primarily don't sing popular music, right? The information's out there. So Tony Bennett's still out there killing it. He's singing old songs. What's he doing? What is he doing? How does he do it? How did, and knowing a little bit about him, it was actually his son. Nobody wanted Tony Bennett. Nobody wanted to represent him anymore. And his son was like, Dad, I'll represent you. And the first thing his son did was, he said, like, let's make a music video. This is back in the 80s. So spent a little money, made a video of stepping out, and all of a sudden went crazy on MTV back in the time, pre-YouTube. And then Tony Bennett's career whoosh, went back up. And all of a sudden, everybody, a whole new generation knows who Tony Bennett is. Look at other vocal harmony groups too. Look at Straight No Chaser. They're occasionally singing really current songs, but they're singing a lot of songs from the 80s. They're singing a lot of traditional music. In fact, I just heard that both of their first 2 Christmas albums went gold, right? So they're doing a lot right, and they have sold out. They sing from October to January, sold out around the country. So there's a real desire for what they're doing, and what happens in this room is not far from that. They occasionally have vocal percussion, but usually don't. They wear suits and ties. They have a little bit of choreo, but not a lot. But they connect with an audience. Go see Straight No Chaser. The King Singers, Chanticleer, right? Granted, they're doing even older music and classical music, but then they dabble in music of the 20th century, and they sing Creole Love Call, and there's all this stuff that they do, and they do it well, and they do it with personality, which gets back to the point that I was making beforehand. There are people who are doing what we want to do, and they're doing it well. We can jump on that. And more importantly, making videos is the future. About a year ago, I spoke to people in Contemporary Acapella Society of America, I'm not important anymore, and I said, videos, videos, videos. Started Video Awards, and they said, well, I said, I know you've got video as part of the big awards, but make it a big deal. So this year, coming up later on this month, they're having the first ever Acapella Video Awards. It's a big deal. And what that does, like the society is holding up a carrot. Oh, best costuming, best storyboard, best whatever, boom, 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 boom. And all of these groups now are starting to make more videos because they're like, ooh, trophies, shiny gold object. Look at that. I'm not above it. But videos, that's the way people are getting out there and making full-time careers. And you look at individuals like Peter Hollins, but then you also look at Pentatonix. Do you guys realize that Pentatonix has more followers on YouTube than Beyonce? Isn't that amazing? It's amazing. So basically, for the first time in our lifetimes, the potential exists for any music to get in front of millions of people and find its own organic fan base. Like, think about that. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, there was no getting our music out there in front of people. Like, maybe you'd be lucky if you got on the Johnny Carson show. Maybe you're lucky if Meredith Willson writes us into a musical, right? But for the most part, like, there was no way to hit the mainstream with regularity. Now, with the internet, we can find and foster those people. We can use videos and all kinds of other online tools to reach out and continue to contact people not only around the US, but inspire people all around the world, which is huge. So one of the other things, one of the seeds I want to plant is the idea of integration. I know that barbershop is your lives. It's not only my life, but some of you live, breathe, eat barbershop. And that is fantastic. But that's not the best way to inspire the next generation, right? The best way is to find ways to integrate it in with other things. So to give you a couple examples of things that I've been working on, creating more opportunities for people to spread barbershop within the Scholastic system. I joined the California ACDA, American Choral Directors Association Board. I just called to get some ideas, and Lou De La Rosa just put me on the board as the first ever contemporary acapella / barbershop R&R chair. So that's repertoire and that's resources. So I created a whole list of different contemporary acapella sheet music and books and stuff in barbershop as well. And I ran into a real wall because there appear to be right now, from what I can tell, fewer than 10 published SATB arrangements that are barbershop. And the reason this is a problem is because 99.99% of all people who sing in schools do so in SATB format. And music directors need music. They're a little too busy to like, well, I could revoice this and it gets high here if the tenor's doing an alto thing. Like they can't do that math. That's too complicated for them. We need to give them something that's straightforward, and we're gonna have a meeting and talk more about this. But if you think about it, just conceptually, when you were growing up and going to school, you sang American folk music, you sang Shenandoah, you sang Stephen Foster, you sang spirituals. Why isn't barbershop part of the Americana canon that's taught in the musical educational system? There's no reason it shouldn't be. Let's get them. Let's go get them. Come on, let's go get them. And the key is we have to let go of one thing. Just one thing. If we let go of that one thing, everything else will fall into place. And that one thing is the idea of single-sex groups being the only way to do it. We have to. My professional group that I sang with for 25 years, the House Jacks, all guys. I'm not against it. I'm not against it. It's that we have to get into people's hands in a form that they can use. 6th grade middle school choral teachers, freshman year choir. Let's get them singing. Let's move the arrangements up. Let's create a canon, a barber pole cat canon of songs that can be sung. And we don't call it lead, like let go, let go, let go. It's called soprano, alto, tenor, bass. It has to be. And we can create materials that explain them that these are the traditional names or whatever, but let's spoon feed them in the easiest way possible so they have an opportunity to then teach that music and get people started on the course for our kind of close harmony singing, because it's an American treasure and it should be taught alongside other great forms of American music in every school in America. We've each year increasingly been integrating barbershop into Camp Acapella. So we would always have a barbershop night where barbershop quartets, the guideline group would come and perform for everybody, and then the campers would sing tags afterwards. Last year we had a couple extra, these kids are singing all the time. We had a couple extra just voluntary, during your free time, barbershop choruses, a male and a female one, and they were filled with people, flooded. Amanda and Drew do an incredible job of inspiring all these young singers, and singers of all ages, by the way. Camp Acapella is for anyone age 11 to 111. You're all welcome to come. But what we're doing this year is we're also creating barbershop ACA majors, so that kids can be like, well, I'm going to study, I don't know if I want to do songwriting or live sound and barbershop. It's like that. It's this cross-pollination, right? And the same way you don't only read, well, I only read mystery novels and never nonfiction, right? You read a lot of different things. You don't only listen to barbershop. Well, some of you only listen to barbershop, but the rest of you might occasionally listen to a string quartet or a Sam Cooke album. Let's put our barbershop out there in a way that it's integrated with other things in places where people will fall in love with it, and then make it possible for it to be in their lives, mixed in with all these other things. Just remember that this is not about us. We want to spread barbershop because it changes lives. We're preserving a style of music, and it's literally become a mission to change society in the ways that we've been changed. To sing with people who are different from you is to understand how to communicate, to compromise, to recognize how much we need each other. And we actually have the ability to start to stitch back together our communities, our nation, one person, one singer at a time. I believe that, and boy, do we need it right now. So we draw people in with these universal elements of music that are so meaningful to everybody, that everybody longs for, that everybody needs, and that are so compelling, and then we show how barbershop has that, and then they start to fall in love with the overtones, and then they start to understand what the inner voicity means and why it's so excited. Last thing I want to leave you with is this idea that barbershop is no longer the world's best kept secret. I officially rescind your ability to say that anymore. Because it's not a secret anymore. People know what barbershop is. The problem is we just don't like what people are saying about it, right? So, but the good news is they're talking. They know what it is. 25 years ago, nobody knew what a cappella was. Then 10, 15 years ago, it was the punchline on Scrubs and Jennifer Aniston movies, and it was like, but at least it's out there. It was like the dorky guys in college with the vests on, and you know what I'm saying? And then we turned it. Guys, we are that close to people realizing what barbershop is not that anymore. We'll find a way. We'll get those videos out there, get us on some TV shows. Maybe eventually Jimmy Fallon will be like, all right, I just met these young guys. These guys, this is barbershop. I don't want to make fun of it a lot, but check these guys out. We're this close. That starts happening, and all of a sudden, bam, we've got the Barbershop Pentatonics. Bam, we've got choirs out there that have too many people trying to get in them, and they have to split off and have different tiers. Like, this kind of stuff can happen. The infrastructure is there. The incredible mission of the society, the leadership is there, the talent is there, all of these pieces are in place. We just need that last piece where we lead with the emotion, we lead with the personality to draw people in and give them something they have needed and longed for their lives and not been able to find anywhere else. So if you don't like what people are saying about barbershop, go do something about it. And like in any conversation, any conflict, anytime you have a problem you want to fix, you don't just open your mouth. You don't do what we men traditionally do, which is to just dive in with solutions and answers and start mansplaining. What do we need to do? Listen. Thank you very much.